Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, May 28th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to leave your baseball picks in the comment section below. If you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at pickdawgz.com in the Premium Picks tab. I'm running a daily $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Saturday, May 28th. First up, our first matchup of the day, the Boston Red Sox taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Now, this is going to be a doubleheader, but unfortunately, for Game 2 of this doubleheader, we don't really have a lot of information as far as starting pitching goes, so I'm going to have to pass on that game. But for Game 1, we should see Jordan Lyles and Nathan Eovaldi as the starters. Now, Jordan Lyles this year is 3-4 with a 4.1 ERA. Eovaldi 1-2 with a 4.1 ERA. So the same ERA for both of these starters. Jordan Lyles this season has pitched well for the Orioles. Last year struggled quite a bit with the Rangers. Even in 2020 with Texas, he really struggled with a 7.02 ERA. But with the new team in Baltimore, having a 4.1 ERA as a back-end starter is not too bad. His strikeout numbers are up. The walks allowed are limited, and the home runs allowed are also decreased for Lyles. So that's why he's having some success. On the other side, Nathan Eovaldi, the biggest issue for him has been the home run ball this season. He's allowing 2.79 homers per nine. 25.9% of the fly balls that he allows have gone for a home run, which is kind of an insane stat to think about. His career average is around 11.2%, so I do think that those numbers are going to shrink a bit, and with that, Eovaldi should have some more success on the mound. He is striking out batters, he is limiting walks, and he has a 3.18 xFIP this season. I think the Red Sox bats are in a much better place. The Orioles have really struggled on the road this season. As a home dog, they have been really solid, but on the road, away from Camden Yards, not so much. The Red Sox bats are starting to wake up. We see Trevor Story as one of the hottest hitters in baseball. I'm going to take the Red Sox in Game 1, and like I said, I'm going to have to pass for Game 2, as we just don't have enough information to make a side. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Minnesota Twins. Chris Archer and Brady Singer are your projected starters, and I do think in this game there is some value on the underdog. The Royals going with Brady Singer here. Hasn't pitched a lot in 2022 this year, only 19 2/3 innings, but he has been really sharp in those innings. He's limited walks, he's limited home runs, decent strikeout rate at 8.24 Ks per nine, so a 1.83 ERA and a 2.73 FIP for Singer. I think he pitches well again in this spot, and on the other side, I just cannot lay that kind of price with Chris Archer right now. Sure, a below 4 ERA at 3.86, but there is a lot of regression that I'm worried about in his game right now. 5.55 FIP. He's allowing a lot of walks and a lot of home runs, usually a red flag for starting pitching. 4.75 walks per nine, 1.78 home runs per nine. The Royals bats started off the season really slow, but they've started to pick it up lately, and they've been able to find situational offense in games also. The bullpen's also sharpening up from a really rough start to the season. I'm going to take the Kansas City Royals here, getting a great price on the money line. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Matthew Liberatore and Adrian Hauser are your projected starters. And this is a tough game for me overall, as I do think that both teams will find some offense early on in this game. I lean towards the over as far as the total goes, but regarding the side, I'm going to lean towards the Brewers here on the money line. I do think they're going to be able to get the Liberatore early and often. The Cardinals bullpen also doesn't really impress me right now, while the Brewers, I think, have a top 3 bullpen in the league this season. So if it comes down to bullpen late, just like it did in the first game of the series, I think the Brewers have it. So I'm going to take Milwaukee here on the money line, but not my favorite game on the board. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Washington Nationals. Now we're going to see a doubleheader in this game, as the game on Friday night was postponed due to weather. Now, I've mentioned I tread lightly in doubleheader games, and this one's included. Game 1, we should expect to see the starters that were projected to go on Friday in Austin Gomber and Aaron Sanchez. And then in Game 2, the projected starters for Saturday's game, Chad Cole and Yoan Adon. I'm going to stick to the same pick I gave out for Friday's video and take the Rockies on the money line in the first game of this doubleheader, as I do think this is the best chance they have to win a ball game in this series on the road, with Gomber going up against Sanchez. And then in Game 2, if Cole and Adon are your starters, I'm going to lean towards the over. Both starters are trending in the wrong direction right now. Adon walking a lot of batters and giving up some home runs. Chad Cole has also been giving up some homers as of late, 3 at least 1 home run in 3 of his last 5 starts. So I do think both teams get on the board early and often, and I think the total is going to be set pretty high as well. So I'm going to take the Rockies in Game 1 on the money line and the over in Game 2. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Garrett Cole and Corey Kluber are your starters here. Now, this is going to be an interesting game. I do think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I lean towards the under as far as the total goes. But as far as the side, I'm going to take the Yankees on the money line and lean towards the Rays on the run line. I think this is a one-run game, 3-2 kind of final score. Garrett Cole, I think, will pitch well against the Rays. And the Tampa Bay lineup, not as strong as we saw it last year. They are missing some guys from last year's team that were pretty solid in that lineup. Guys like Austin Meadows that are now in the Tigers. Guys like Brandon Lau, who's been injured for a little while. So I do think the Rays struggle offensively here. But Kluber has pitched well for the Rays. Hasn't been fantastic, but a solid option in the middle of the rotation. A guy that's going to get you some innings. And although his last couple starts haven't been the sharpest on paper, I still think he pitches well at home here against his former club in the Yankees. He has a 2.91 ERA at Tropicana Field this season with 22 strikeouts in those innings as well, and only 21 2/3 innings. So I'm going to take the Yankees on the money line and lean towards the under in the Yankees Rays. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Oakland Athletics. We're going to see Taylor Hearn and Zach Logue as your starters. And to me, I think the Rangers have actually been a pretty sneaky team as of late. I think they've been playing really well. Offensively, they're starting to pick things up. This was a team that on paper had a really strong lineup. A lot of people were talking about it going into the season. And then they really struggled to start the year, especially a guy like Marcus Semien. Really struggled at the beginning of the season, but he's starting to pick it up. Some role players are also starting to pick it up for this team. Guys like Nathaniel Lowe, Sam Huff, even a guy like Cole Calhoun, really starting to pick it up with the sticks. And the Rangers are winning some ball games and at least competing as underdogs in others. They've had a really tough schedule as of late, but have actually been able to compete in those games. And now they're facing the weakest team in the division, in my opinion, in the A's. And I think they get to Logue in this spot. Logue, good start to the season. He struggled quite a bit in his last few starts, including his last start against the Mariners where he went 4 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 home runs, and 4 walks in an Oakland loss. I think the Oakland A's have the weakest lineup in the American League. I think the Rangers win this ball game, and we're getting such a good price with Texas because of their early season struggles. Give me the Rangers here on the money line. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Detroit Tigers. Tristan McKenzie and Elvin Rodriguez are your starters. Now, I do think the Tigers are in a bit of trouble in this spot. We see they have the 29th ranked team OPS against righties, and they're dead last in baseball in isolated power against righties as well. They're facing Tristan McKenzie, who's off to a great start this year. His best year in the majors thus far, in my opinion, 2.7 ERA, limiting walks to 2.49 walks per 9, limiting home runs to under 1 home runs per 9. Strikeout numbers aren't the sharpest, but I'm not really worried about that. He's got good strikeout stuff. I think he pitches well against a really weak Tigers lineup here. On the other side, Elvin Rodriguez hasn't had a lot of work this season, but we've seen him struggle with the home runs and walks already this season, and now he's going up against the Jose Ramirez-led Guardians offense that has really hit righties well in the top 10 in team OPS against right-handed pitching and in isolated power against right-handed pitching. I like the Guardians here. We're getting a pretty good price with them because they're on the road. Give me Cleveland on the money line. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Sandy Alcantara and Tucker Davidson as your starters. Now, Tucker Davidson's probably not going to pitch too deep into this game. He's more of an opener, but we have seen him go 5 innings at one point this season, and he is facing a Marlins lineup that has really struggled against left-handed pitching this season. No team strikes out more times than the Marlins do against lefties with a 31.1% K rate against left-handed pitching. They are also 28th in the league in team OPS against lefties, and they are in the 20s, 22 in isolated power against lefties. So I think Davidson could have his best start of the season here. On the other side, Sandy Alcantara has pitched really well for the Fish, and he also pitched really well against these Braves not too long ago in his last start at Lone Depot Park. I think this is going to be a low-scoring ball game. I'm going to take the under in the Braves-Marlins game. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Alex Wood going for the Giants, but we don't know who the official starter is quite yet for the Reds. I'm just going to take a lean here on the Giants' money line. Not a lot of information that we have here, but if Cincinnati decides to go with a bullpen game, I don't think it's the best option for him, as the Reds' bullpen has struggled quite a bit this season. I do think Alex Wood is pitching better than his 4.82 ERA may suggest. he is striking out batters, not giving up a ton of homers, and he hasn't had too many issues with the walks either this season. Against a pretty weak Reds lineup, I'm going to take the Giants here to get the win, so I'll take them on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Chicago White Sox. It's the battle of the North and South side here, and we're going to be at Guaranteed Rate Field for this one. You know, Keegan Thompson and Johnny Cueto are your projected starters. I really can't trust either starter too much, but the Cubs are finding new ways to lose ball games. We saw them get embarrassed by the Reds in that 20-5 final score. The White Sox have also dominated against the Cubs lately, including 2 wins at Wrigley Field earlier this season, 3-1 and 4-3. I think the White Sox have the slightly better starter. I think they have the much better lineup and the much better bullpen as well. Playing at home against a team that they've dominated against in recent seasons and already in 2022, I have to take the White Sox in this spot on the money line. In our next game, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tony Gonsolin and Merrill Kelly are your starters. Now, we've seen Merrill Kelly really struggle lately, and I do think this is a really bad spot for him. Especially, you know, he's looking for a sharp outing. This is not the team you want to face when you really need a good start. A team that's already dominated you to begin the season. 2 innings pitched against the Dodgers back on May 17th. Kelly gave up 5 hits, 8 earned runs, 1 home run, and 4 walks. And against the Dodgers again here, the team that's number 1 in baseball against righties in terms of team OPS this season. I do think Kelly is in trouble. Dodgers are also number 1 in isolated power against righties, Tony Gonsolin, sure, he could have regressed. You know, his number is 1.62 ERA. I don't think it's going to hold for too much longer, but he's striking out batters. He's not giving up a ton of base runners, and he's been able to pitch deeper into games this season than we've seen from him in his career. We're seeing 6 innings, 7 innings at one point. So give me the Dodgers here on the money line. I just think they're the much better team with the much better starting pitcher option. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the New York Mets. Taijuan Walker and Zach Eflin are your starters. Now, I don't think Taijuan Walker is one of the worst starting pitching options for the Mets this season. I think he's fine in the back end of their rotation, but I don't think he can be favorited in this game, particularly against the Phillies team that just crushed them the last time they faced them. 4 innings, 9 hits, 7 runs, 6 of those were earned, 2 home runs and 2 walks against the Phillies. Now, the Mets actually went on to win that ball game. That was the infamous 7-1 blown lead game back on May the 5th, where Phillies were up by 6 runs in the 9th inning. They blew that lead. And I know their bullpen has not been easy to watch, but Zach Eflin has been. He's pitching well this year. Probably the best start to a season he's had in his career thus far. I think he pitches well enough, at least, to get the Phillies a competitive shot to win this ball game. And you're getting such a good price with Philadelphia here. You know, these two teams hate each other's guts. I think in this rivalry game, I'm going to give the edge to the Fightin' Phils. So I'm going to take the Phillies here on the money line. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Michael Lorenzen and Yusei Kikuchi on the mound here. Now, Michael Lorenzen has that 3.05 ERA, and sure, he has pitched well in recent outings, but let's look at the matchups he's faced. White Sox, one of the worst teams in team OPS against right-handed pitching. Nationals, weak lineup. Oakland A's again. Now you're facing the Toronto Blue Jays, with a team that definitely underperformed offensively so far this year, but there's no doubt there's a ton of offensive talent on paper in this lineup. Guys like Vladdy, guys like George Springer, guys like Bichette. I think this is the type of game the Blue Jays offense breaks out a bit. I think Lorenzen's ERA goes up in this one. And Yusei Kikuchi was a guy I was really worried about going into the season, and he really struggled to start the year as well. But I have to admit, he's pitching well right now. 2 earned runs last time, no earned runs the previous start, 2 earned runs the previous start, 1 earned run. He's giving up 2 or less in his last 4 starts against the Yankees, the Mariners, the Reds. I think he pitches well again in this spot against an Angels team that prefers righties to lefties. The Angels are number 3 in baseball in team OPS against righties this season, but against lefties, they're outside the top 10. So I'm going to take the Blue Jays in this spot on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Seattle Mariners. Jose Urquidy and Logan Gilbert are your starters. Now, I'm not really too confident in either of these starting pitchers here. Logan Gilbert had a really strong start to 2022, has struggled a little bit as of late, and has also struggled against these Houston Astros in his career thus far. Houston has been really strong against right-handed pitching this season, in the top 5 in both team OPS and isolated power against right-handed pitching. And Jose Urquidy, not a guy I come back too often, has only 6.69 Ks per 9, and the home runs have also been an issue. He's given up the most home runs per 9 this season at 1.56 in his career thus far, and that's why you see his FIP at 4.35. I know the Mariners kind of let their fans down lately, offensively and pitching-wise, but I do think this is a game where the Mariners get on the board early, but I also think Houston scores plenty in this one. I think this total is set too low. Give me the over in the Astros-Mariners. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the San Diego Padres. JT Brubaker and Joe Musgrove are your starters. Now, right off the bat, I think the Pirates are going to struggle offensively in this spot because they have all season, and they're also facing one of the best pitchers in the National League this year in Joe Musgrove. Musgrove, a 1.9 ERA, 51 strikeouts in 52 innings, a .94 whip, 5-0 record. He has pitched fantastic for these Padres, and he already faced this Pirates lineup back on May the 1st, where he pitched 7 innings of 1-run ball with 8 strikeouts and no walks allowed. I think he pitches really well in this spot again, but I also think JT Brubaker, a guy that, sure, he's 0-4 this season, but and his ERA is above 4.5, but I do think he is going to start to see the ERA shrink a bit. The strikeout numbers for Brubaker have been really good. He's also coming off his best outing of the season, where he went 6 2/3 innings of no earned run allowed baseball. He did give up 1 unearned run against the Rockies in a 2-1 final score. I think this is a low-scoring game overall. The Padres prefer lefties than righties offensively. They've struggled quite a bit against righties this season. I'm going to take the under in the full game. I also like the Pittsburgh Pirates team total under as well. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday, May 28th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget to put your picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.